I think Shishukunj is inclusive, but the perception may not be that. Because of our background, the people naturally attracted to this organization are from Gujarat background. We don't mean to be exclusive. We want to include everybody. Shishukunj gave me a whole new family of friends, if you like. The number of people you interact with and get to know them, they're like part of your extended family, basically. So I decided that stage when my children were 6 years old that Shishukunj is the right place to spend a Sunday morning doing the activities that they do. They're all these adults, all these senior karyakars, 18 plus, 17 plus, who are looking after all our children, 200 plus children. So they are spending their time doing that. So I said, I have to get involved. If those people hadn't come forth, I might not have joined as actively as I did, because I've been to other sanstha's in and around here, and I'm telling you, if somebody new comes in, it can be quite difficult to get into their if you like, small groupings.
Namaste everyone, my name is Kamleshbhai and welcome to another episode of the Shishukunj Legacy Podcast. A bit about me, I'm an 18-year-old Talim Nikaraka who's at Mill Hill Kendra, and I'm really honoured to be talking to a highly esteemed individual. Namaste Kamleshbhai.
Namaste Dilanbhai.
Tell us a bit about yourself.
I am Kamleshbhai. Started Shishukunj long time ago when I was a little child back in Kenya. And then continued my life in London, but didn't join Shishukunj straight away. Took me a while to join Shishukunj again, but I've been in Shishukunj for the past 25 plus years in London.
Wow, it's longer than I've been alive. Crazy. We're going to start with some quick fire questions.
Sure.
And just to sort of set the scene about who you are as an individual. So you mentioned a few things. So when did you join Shishukunj and what was the reason for it? I
joined Shishukunj when I was 10 years old, in our small town in Kenya. There was no such Sunday activities. Shishukunj was brought by one of the karyakars in our town, and we were encouraged to attend. So my reason for purely attending was we were not doing anything else on a Sunday, and it would be a good laugh and something to do. So no other reason apart from enjoying myself.
And did you initially actually enjoy yourself, or did you find it was hard to adjust to?
No, I enjoyed myself, but we were doing a lot of mischief. Our main aim was to play and do mischief, and nothing about learning or at the back of mind. We just wanted to enjoy ourselves, occupy our time on a Sunday morning, and that's why I initially attended Shishukunj.
And I'm sure you made a lot of friends out of it as well.
I mean, the friend circle is another world when you talk about Shishukunj. We have friend circle in our family environment, school friends. Shishukunj gave me a whole new family of friends, if you like. And the number of people you interact with and get to know them, they're like part of your extended family, basically.
Yeah. And in this initial point in Shishukunj, did you encounter any responsibilities that you had to undertake?
Not initially, but after 2 years, I was made a Talimi Karyakar, which is a trainee field worker in English terms. And I was given a task to look after smaller children, 6-year-old children's group for about an hour. It was overseen by the senior people, but that was my first real responsibility at the age of 12 in Shishukunj.
So it's at the age of 12, and I remember becoming a Dastan Nayak at the age of 12. So again, looking after a small group of people. How did you feel when you encountered that responsibility? What was it like?
In my mind, I thought, wow, I'm something big now, because they've given me this responsibility. And so I didn't, at that age, I didn't really feel stress or pressure. But I was just thinking, how can, they've given me such a big thing to do. And I was just overawed by what they had offered me on that.
Fantastic. So you moved obviously throughout Shishukunj, and then you moved from Kenya to England. Can you tell us a bit about how that experience was?
Yeah. So like everybody else from Kenya, people are migrating to United Kingdom, and we also moved to United Kingdom. And when I came to London, I went to school here. And Shishukunj was set up a couple of years after I moved to United Kingdom. I knew about it, but I never joined back for whatever reason. And I continued my schooling, my college, got married, and then obviously I had children. And when they were 6, I joined back into Shishukunj because at the back of my mind, I don't know what you call it, but there was a feeling that my children need to take or benefit from Shishukunj environment, because although I'd only spent a few years in my younger age, I somehow knew that Shishukunj was the right thing. It taught people children the right way of living. So I made sure that they got on the waiting list. At that time, it was like 5-year waiting list.
Oh, wow.
And as soon as they were born, they were on the waiting list. And at the age of 6, they joined. And I basically joined Shishukunj, or started coming into Shishukunj from then on.
That's interesting, because only a few years in as a Barak at that time in Kenya, and then having understood that experience meant that somewhere in the back of your mind, you felt that this was right for your children.
Absolutely. When I was very young, without knowing at that time, we used to have some very interesting talks by well-known field workers or karikars, such as Vallabhbhai, Devchandbhai. There was a Sashibhai, our local karyakar, and somehow unconsciously, it must be in my mind, at the back of my mind, that look, whatever I heard at that time stayed there. And it told me somehow when I grew up later on that, look, Shishukunj does this, or trains young children into a way of living which is outside world is a bit new. And so I decided that stage when my children were 6 years old that Shishukunj is the right place to spend a Sunday morning doing the activities that they do.
Definitely. So coming back to the time in which you joined back as a parent member, essentially, what was then your experience of trying to get more involved? Were you actively looking to seek opportunities?
To be honest,
to be honest,
first 3 years, I was coming and dropping them, and then I'd come and pick them up and then go home. There were, people who were around were trying to tell me to stay on and help out or just stay there. And I just came, dropped them. For 3 years, I did that solidly. And then something changed in my mind. I said, oh, all these children, all these adults, all these senior karyakars, 18 plus, 17 plus, who are looking after all our children, 200 plus children. So they are spending their time doing that. So I said, I have to get involved. So hence, I started coming more regularly, and I joined the executive committee at that time. And it was due to people who were in the committee previously, Jagdeep Bhai and Bharat Bhai, who really encouraged me to join the executive council at that stage.
And I guess still as a new parent at that time, only being in there for around 3 years, right? You said. How did it feel to have that support already there for you? People encouraging you to take up a position of responsibility?
To be honest, if those people hadn't come forth, I might not have joined as actively as I did, because I've been to other sansthas in and around here, and I'm telling you, if somebody new comes in, can be quite difficult to get into their if you like, small groupings.
Yeah.
I've been to one of the sansthas that I'm close to, and I found it very difficult when I first went in, how to even say hello to people, because people don't approach you. Whereas in Shishukunj, first thing I've noticed is if somebody sees a new face, somebody will come and say hello. Somebody will approach you, and you straight away feel comfortable in that environment. And it's like, wow, they don't even know me, and yet, they're encouraging me, they're saying hello. So I felt very encouraged that this is the right place. So I decided that stage that, look, if I have spare time, this is the place I should give it.
So what role did you take up on the EC as it was?
Yeah, my background is finance. So I took up the treasury role. Haven't done charity accounts previously, but I think with the accounts background, you can sort of adapt yourself and learn on the job. So I did the treasury function, but I did it for 6 years.
Wow.
I initially was only going to do it for 2 years and then come out, not going to executive council, but I ended up doing 6 years.
Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, but things were different at that stage. It was a one-man show. I used to do everything from bookkeeping of finance to submitting the tax reforms to the now. Obviously, things might have changed. I've changed, but at that time it was one-man show, and I used to spend many hours at the Bhavan trying to do those accounts.
Wow. It's funny you say that because my dad, Hithambai, he sat as treasurer, and the way that the role has developed has been quite interesting into being more of a treasury team now. How do you see that? What's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I think the treasury role has developed, and the demands are a bit higher now. There is a lot more bureaucracy from Inland Revenue required, and it's good to have a team around you. So for one person, it becomes very stressful. And what the recent past treasurers have done is to build a team around them. So I think there are about 4 or 5 people. And at any one time, if somebody steps down or is on holiday or something, things still carry on. And I think the stress, or if you like, the pressure is a little bit more evened out. So not one person takes all the stress. But treasury function being what it is, responsibility does not pass. The treasurer has to be responsible for all the finance that is, we are involved with a lot of big sums of money in Shishukunj, and the charity commission, if ever they investigated us, the treasurer's role is to answer to this responsibly.
And what did you try and bring to the role? Because when every individual takes up on a specific role, they always try and, put their own spin on it. We've seen it, at Gender, and we've seen it outside. Was there anything specific that you tried to do as treasurer?
Yeah, I think first year is basically a bedding down, trying to just do the job without actually thinking about the improvement. But once 1 year has passed, then you start thinking, how do I improve them? So what I brought into Shishukunj at that stage was, it was all jumbled up. We had one set of books and accounts, and within Shishukunj we have 3 different facets or 3 different areas where we are accountable for within finance. One is the day-to-day activities, children's activities, Bal Pravati. The other one was the property, which at that stage wasn't huge, but still had its own outgoings. And the other big area was the Seva project that we do, the charitable arm of Shishukunj. So I split that into 3 different, almost companies, but we call them departments, but within Shishukunj, so I call them 3, so we can identify which area the income is there or expenditure comes from. So to balance books, so we know where the shortfall is or where we need to raise awareness of if we need more money or more funds or where there is excess. So that was all. We split it into 3 different companies within Shishukunj. So that was my big plus, I believe.
Yeah.
And that sort of set the tone. And I believe still, at present, they're still using that 3 department stroke company functionality in the finance area.
Oh, interesting. So you then had many different roles along the EC after serving as treasurer. Could you take us through what some of them were?
Yeah, once I think treasury 6 years is a long time. We did, in Shishukunj, we always want people to develop more, and a person should not be in that in any seat for too long to make it impossible for other people to jump in. So I even treasury, I think 6 years was too long, but there were reasons why I was there for 6 years, because the person who becomes a treasurer is an elected person, and for some reason or other, the people who were elected were not of finance background. So I ended up doing the role for a longer period. But then, after treasury function, I joined the SHIPA committee, and I was assistant SHIPA at that time. New challenges for me, not very comfortable with talking to parents directly, encouraging them to join the Shishukunj, participate in whatever Shishukunj was doing, help out. So it was a bit of a challenge for me initially, but I had a good Shipa chair at that time, Jayuben. And if you've ever met her, she is very vociferous, very encouraging, and can gather people. If you just say, clap a couple of hands, and you'll see people just, it's like honey.
Yeah.
People just come in.
Yeah.
So it was a good place for me at that time because I had a good chair, so it helped me.
Oh, brilliant. And I guess, yeah, there's that difference between having to galvanize parents and trying to unite them and speaking to them directly compared to the more administrative role of, balancing the books and trying to make sure where the holes are. So that must have been quite interesting for you to develop personally and through your own skill set.
Absolutely, because these are the skills I was lacking probably. And when I joined that area, it basically forced me to confront these issues. So I actually went out, talked to parents, encouraged them, and and we were trying to find out ways of attracting more and more parents to come to that Shishukunj administration functions. So it was a good challenge, but I think I developed a lot. I learned a lot from that Shipa role that I had.
And then what did you take on after Shipa role?
After Shipa role, I was still in the committee, but then after a year, I was made vice president. That role, I did it for 2 years. And it was different, again, functions, different things to do, but it was all developing me. So Shishukunj is saying Shishukunj is helping me, but in fact, I was developing myself all along. My career was being helped because the skill set I had now, it was very wide. Not just doing accounting, but I could talk to people, I could do a lot of administration work and a lot of talking with the higher up people and lower down people. So it helped me develop a lot. And the vice president function was great.
And then as president, I'm assuming, that must have had a different challenge to it after.
I'll just go one step back. Vice president. Vice president is basically, I would say, title is given to you vice president, but it doesn't have that much responsibility, although you are number 2 to step in when president is not around. But the responsibility wise, I think very little, because you have other people responsible for all the other areas, and they actually did more work. But what it allows you to do as a vice president is learn all the other facets of the Shishukunj area. So children's work, what they do, Bal Pravati, and then Seva work. Again, we got very involved in how we actually source the funds, how we actually donate, how we decide who to donate to. So, yeah, and the other area which I had to jump in was the property side at that time. We were looking for a property. So again, we were liaising with a lot of people, different people, and it gives you an all-round experience as a vice president. Not having a responsibility allows you to grow and find out all the other areas. So I think it sets you up nicely to be a president later on.
And how did it feel, having to be ultimately responsible, right, for the whole organization and everything that happens within it, but also trying to make sure that you're encouraging others to take that responsibility for every different facet of the organization. Yeah. So what was it like being president?
President is it's a tough one to analyze, but the responsibility now is you are the responsible for the whole organization. If anything goes wrong or right, the buck stops there. So you are responsible. But having said that, it's a place where you flourish as well. You enjoy what comes around you. People talk to you in a different light, sort of. But being a president was very stressful, sometimes. But at the end of the day, when you finish whatever task you're doing, I say, you sit down at home and think, am I president of Shishukunj? What have I done? And it's a growing thing. But I think one thing that I learned being a president was that we need to make sure that there's a succession plan. Because if somebody vacates a seat, can be president, can be treasurer, can be vice president, anybody, we need to have responsible people ready to step in. So as a president, I try to encourage that we try to recruit people, not just for the next 2 years, but try to get a line in order so that the Shishukunj organization functions nicely going forward. Because we've been here since 1976 in London, and there are times when we've struggled to get the right people appointed, but touch wood, we've survived, and now we're flourishing.
No, fantastic. So once you sort of finish as being a president,
Yeah.
there's obviously the role of ex officio. What does that specifically mean?
Ex officio is you are around for a year, basically. You're automatically in the committee and you're there to advise. And if, stir a little bit if the president you think is going completely out of the way. Obviously, you can't make the decision. He's the president, but you're there as a shoulder to lean on, basically. So the president will lean on you now and then, or may seek advice because you already done 2 years, and for that new president, it'll be a new thing. So he may lean on you. You should have broad shoulders. And just lead them nicely and advise them or if they need any help in a specific area, suggest that to them that, look, this is the area you need to concentrate on. So, that's what it is for ex officio as far as I know. It's for advice, basically.
Mainly advisory position.
Yeah.
And then you took a few years break. And what is the current position that you
I took a few years off, and then I thought I've done a lot of years in Shishukunj in various positions, and obviously other people need to now participate. I was around regularly coming in. Even now, even at the Bhavan, I used to do voluntary work. To the present, I'm doing it as a caretaker role once a week. But so I took a few years off, and then I was approached to be the governor of Shishukunj, and it's a great honor to be offered or to be thought about in such high terms. So then I became a governor, and I've been governor for the past 6 years. This is my 7th year, and we are finishing at 8 years.
What do you think about that, though? 8 years for governorship.
Governorship for 8 years, I think, is too long. We've always said that you should not have a seat too long, and yet the governorship role for 8 years is too long. I think there are enough capable people around who should have the chance. 4 years, I think, is a right number. So maybe we need to review the way the constitution is done. So other people get a chance. Plus, I think more fresher ideas come in when new people come into the job, because after a few years you start getting a bit stale in your thinking and your attitude. So I believe that needs a serious review, the governorship of 8-year role. But having said that, I'm there doing my job as best as I can and enjoying it thoroughly. Again, we are as an advisory role, not really affecting, but steering the people in the right way if there's something wrong.
And it's funny that you mentioned the constitution, because it's in recent years, especially I think in my age group, it's come under it's subject to debate a lot. And having been through a lot of different roles in Shishukunj, treasury, so looking after admin, and president, and now governorship, do you think the constitution is still relevant to the modern way that Shishukunj runs?
I think you can't. Yeah, it's a good question, but you need to just take the whole thing in perspective. One is we moved from Asia to Africa to Europe now. So obviously our beliefs and so on, what we believe in are still there, are still relevant. But the constitution, in any Western society, for organization to exist, company to exist, we need to have some rules. They require it. The legal system here requires it. So hence we need to have a constitution. So it is relevant. We need to have it. But what we fail to do sometimes is not review it as often. And it's a difficult task to review it, because there's so many different facets. It can take years sometimes to review and then implement it. And by the time you are trying to implement it, other things have come into play, which means what you thought was right may not be relevant.
Might need to be changed again.
So it's always difficult. You're almost trying to run and stop, but it's very difficult to stop that. So I think we should review the constitution every sort of 8 to 10 years. I think it's about time that it's reviewed, and we have to adapt to new demands for this country, for the new generation. Things change, and we need to adapt. Sometimes we are slow at adapting the new ways, but what we did in India, what we did in Africa, what we did in Europe 20 years ago is not the same as what we are doing now. We are in a very dynamic environment as a world. So we need to adapt much more. I think we are a bit slow on that, but I've seen the new generation coming through, and they're very, very active, and they want to see this change. So I'm sure we'll see some changes soon.
Definitely. And I want to look at inclusivity, because this term inclusiveness has been brought to the forefront, especially in the last few years. And you were talking about, adapting to different challenges. Do you feel that Shishukunj is as inclusive as it can be?
Yeah, I think Shishukunj is inclusive, but the perception may not be that.
What do you mean by that?
Perception. Most of the people attending the Shishukunj in London, for example, most of them are Gujaratis. Almost, not 100%, but quite near there. So from outside world, if somebody of English origin or Islam origin came in and they say, oh, but these are all Gujaratis. They are sort of Hindus, Jains, so it's not for us. So the perception may be different. And we are all coming from Gujarat originally. Our grandparents come from there. So naturally we feel that we belong to this society. So perception may be that we are not inclusive, but we are open. We've always maintained anybody can join us, and we've never precluded anybody. Now, if you look at the wider picture of Shishukunj, we've got centers in India and Kenya, and for sure in Kenya, we've got one center that I know of, all African, speaking African, Swahili, and they are thriving. In India, again, we've got other centers which are Hindu-based, or in the South India, we've got different languages. I think I'm not sure whether the language is Tamil or Karnataka, but they are different languages. So we are not exclusive. We are trying to include everybody as much as possible. Because of our background, the people naturally attracted to this organization are from Gujarat background, but we don't mean to be exclusive. We want to include everybody.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a really good point in terms of our intention is definitely to allow everyone to come in, and there's a difference between what it is and what it's perceived as. And what would your message then be to the future leaders of Shishukunj, the parents of Shishukunj, and the senior Karakas right now, to sort of carry that message forward?
I think we are doing as much as we can, but one thing I've noticed as we move into this 21st century and years ago, people's attitudes are changing. But one thing I believe that they should maintain is they must use the word respect all the time and practice that. You must respect everything, because at the moment, when I was brought up in school, the respect we had for teachers and headmasters and so on was immense. Now in the current society, it's a little bit different. Even at home, parents, children threaten the parents at home. If you don't do this, I'm going to report you. So I think the respect word we need to bed in Shishukunj and just spread the word of respect. So everybody should be respectful for everybody. Some people may not be to your liking, but be respectful. They've got their views, you've got your views. So I think respect is a big word, and going forward we need to maintain that anonymity, or that word respect.
No, I definitely agree. And my last question to you, Kamleshbhai, and thank you very much for speaking to me today, is what does Shishukunj mean to you?
That's a big question. But I think Shishukunj, what it means to me is, I'll tell you one word, but I'll just explain a little bit about it.
Of course.
I think Shishukunj means fruit to me. A very unusual answer, but I've seen children from the age of 6 grow up to be big Karyakas, looking after other people's children, and that is what I call fruit. So before they came, they were just seeds. Now they become fruit, and they're mushroomed. And I'm telling you, I've seen these growing up from 6-year-old to 25-year-olds whose children are now coming here, and I've seen them grow, and the joy it brings to us is immense. So I think fruit is the right word, because when children come in, they're not developed, but when they leave Shishukunj, we are hoping, or we are striving to make sure that they are good citizens to go and show their skills outside.
Thank you very much, Kamleshbhai. A few things that I've taken from this conversation include the fact that it's okay to not be good at everything. You can develop yourself with different skill sets. And it's really important that you encourage yourself to go into those different avenues, whichever organization you're in, to try and improve yourself. And Kamleshbhai, I think you are testament to that. So this has been another episode of the Shishukunj Legacy Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us today, and namaste.
Thank you and namaste.